What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for being here at my YouTube channel. This is where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about: movies, comic books, TV shows, video games. Really, if it's nerdy, if it's geeky, I talk about it here. And right now, I'm going to do my fourth video on He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse because the fourth issue came out today. And this was the issue I was waiting for. Finally, in issue 4, we get the original series, Filmation series from the 80s, incorporated into this big epic crossover. We get the original He-Man from the 80s cartoon, interacting with Dolph Lundgren He-Man from the movie. It's great. It's great. So I want to kind of just, show you some of the comic, show you some of the brilliance that it is, and talk about it a little bit. So there's the cover of issue 4. It's a really nice cover. This series has had really nice art through and through. And really, to be honest with you, a lot of this series kind of the art was pivotal, because like when they doing the 80s series, clearly having it look like the 80s series is huge. When they did the Space He-Man from like the early 90s, they did that in issue 2. Having him look like that was huge and important. So being able to capture these different eras of He-Man in this comic book and making it feel authentic was really important, and they've done a really good job of doing that. And it's really gone a long way to make this feel like a true epic He-Man crossover, in the vein of like Crisis on Infinite Earths, or Zero Hour, or Turtles Forever. Yeah, I said that. Turtles Forever. It reminds me some of Turtles Forever, which was also fun. So, yep, you got He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Orko, all from the original show. Now here you've got Dolph Lundgren He-Man, Keldor from the anti-He-Man universe. There's He-Man talking to Sorceress. A lot of nice 80s throwbacks in here. A lot of references. There's some Easter eggs. This is a really fun issue to read if you were a fan of the 80s cartoon. Returning the power to Grayskull, becoming Prince Adam again, and then boom, he gets knocked out by Dolph Lundgren He-Man. Love it. And then Anti-He-Man, I love this. Anti-He-Man dressed up as the clown from the end of the last issue. That's great. That's great. And that clown, I know, I've got to go back and rewatch the He-Man series, because I know I've seen that clown before. I feel like that clown's an Easter egg also. So they decide to go into, they decide to look for something called, I think it's called the Space Seed. Some sort of seed. I think they called it the Space Seed. And again, I think that might have been a MacGuffin in a Filmation episode. But they decided to go look for the Space Seed because it gives the person who holds it the power to kind of change reality. And when you're dealing with a dimension hopping evil He-Man, having the ability to kind of fight fire with fire would be an important thing. So they get that seed, and it kind of has an adverse effect on Dolph Lundgren He-Man. It kind of makes him more aggressive, maybe a little bit more. He's not really the He-Man that he was before he held the seed. And the seed wants an easy victim. It wants somebody who's going to give in to the power willingly. Dolph Lundgren He-Man versus Anti-He-Man. So who will give in to that power willingly? Why, 80s Skeletor, of course. The 80s Skeletor, I can just hear the voice in my head when I'm reading the bubbles here, the word bubbles. I hear '80s Skeletor in my head, and I'm in love. I love this comic book series. How are you not reading it if you're not? Man, and they did such a good job of mashing up the different art styles from the different eras. You know, there's old Skeletor from the '80s getting the full power. And then, Keldor, I've said this before, I think Keldor from the anti-He-Man universe, he will end up being the hero of this story. He's going to be the one who ends up taking him down, and he's going to go full Skeletor, but he's going to be good to take down the bad He-Man. I just think that's the trajectory they're taking here, and we'll see, even more of that here in a second. And there, right there. So right there we can see Keldor. They had the explosion that was caused by 1980s He-Man when he gave the power of Grayskull to that space seed. It exploded. And it kind of two-faced Keldor there. Keldor from the anti-He-Man universe. So now he's actually turning. Part of his face actually looks like Skeletor now. And I think that's a really cool touch. But right now, our heroes are Keldor, Dolph Lundgren He-Man, and the He-Man from the 1980s comic, or from the 1980s cartoon. Those are the three heroes who are left to stand against anti-He-Man. There's 2 issues left, and I'm loving this. I'm loving this series. As somebody who grew up with He-Man, watched the cartoons, watched the reboots, suffered through the reboots, suffered through the movie. I thought the movie was cool when I was a kid. I did. Guilty. But suffered through all the bad versions of He-Man. Suffered through some of the comics. Not all the comics were good, but I'll tell you what, guys. Ever since DC has taken over, He-Man has been in good hands. You had the miniseries in 2012. Then you had the ongoing. And then you had the Eternity War. It's just been a really... they've just treated it really good with a lot of reverence. You've had the He-Man and DC crossover, the Masters of the Universe and Injustice crossover, Masters of the Universe and Thundercats. There's been a lot of fun crossovers that have happened. And now the Masters of the Multiverse. It's been great. It's literally been great. He-Man's been treated with a lot of reverence and a lot of care by DC since they've had him. So is She-Ra, for that matter. She-Ra and the Horde, Skeletor, they've all been treated really good. Done a good job of diving into the mythology and retelling it in a way that's relevant for today's audiences. It's been really good. So, issue 4 of He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse was fantastic. It was my favorite comic that I've read today from New Comic Book Day. Yes, I liked it better than Batman 89. Punchline. More like nose, lip, nothing else. First appearance, my butt. Yes, I really liked this comic. He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse, number 4. Was well worth the read. Have you been reading He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse? If so, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. And how excited were you to revisit He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Orko, Skeletor, these characters from the 80s, from the Filmation cartoon? How excited were you to revisit them? Let me know in the comments down below, guys. And thank you so much for being here at the LQ Review, where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.